Alright, we have Tim Pool. This is, the US is not a democracy. Let's see what he's talking about.
We are a democracy.
The United States is a constitutional republic with democratically elected representatives.
Do you know why the founders said a constitutional republic? Because a liberal democracy wasn't a term that was invented yet.
Liberal democracy is like a semantic term historically to represent countries that function with some kind of electoral
So is a
representative.
constitutional republic, because if you look back at the constitutional republic and what they describe, it later became what we know now as a liberal democracy. The reason that the founding fathers, like Hamilton and Madison, who are the people writing on this in the like original letters, the reason that they explicitly talk about not using the word democracy is because when they think of democracy, they thought of the Greeks, and they're like, well, we don't want some like crazy like just vote by population democracy. We don't like that thing. We want something that is more like essentially what we have now, which is a liberal democracy.
Republicanism.
Yeah, where
Various jurisdictions who send an elected representative to go and represent the interests of the area.
Sure. The issue is that like we just do have a democracy. Like we're fundamentally, if in every way we're functioning as a democracy, we're acting as a democracy, we're voting, then like at some point we have to call the duck a duck. Like it feels like
Except Congress does not enact policy based on the will of the people. That's a fact. It's usually the will of the wealthy and the elite, which is what the Founding Fathers intended, which is why the 17th Amendment got ratified in the early 1900s, because the original idea of how senators were sent to Congress at the federal level was that your state reps would choose to represent the state. So you would vote for a state rep who would then, in their own council, say, we want our state senator to be that guy over there, and no one had a say in it. So in the early 1900s, they were like, hey, the problem is they're sending cronies, so we're going to change this. And I don't actually agree. I think they did it because it allowed the subversion of state choice, state authority. But the general idea among the Founding Fathers was that we needed, quote, better men to decide for the public, not a democracy.
right. This is why you have the electoral college in the first place. This is why I tell people vote in your primaries. But this is a democracy, right? Just because you vote for an elected and then that elected gets to make decisions on your behalf, this is still fundamentally in every way democracy, right? The function of a democracy is that the will of the people transfer their authority and their power to an elect who then speaks for them. And we can talk about whether or not the people who speak for them do a good enough job. You and I would probably agree a lot because I'm very critical.
Huh? Now what happened? No, mamas. You don't have money, you're not gonna go there with no money. Mom hasn't met her parents or her. Has mom met her mom? Who's going? What time is it? And what time are they getting back? Yeah, mamas. Yeah. That's too far. If I have to go pick you up, that's far. I know, but if it gets too late, what if they stand till 11?
Do you think in the past 100 years, the U.S. government has actually enacted policies at the will of the American people?
By and large, yes.
I think the data shows us that the answer is no, they don't. There was the Plutonomy article from Citibank 14 years ago, where Citibank drafted this internal paper to be shared with a bunch of financial interests saying the United States is not a democracy, it is a plutonomy where the wealthy control the political class and the political class enacts the interests of the wealthy elite. I think that's actually fascinating because I would assume the left position is largely that, yeah, politicians don't represent our interests. They represent the lobbyists, the corporations.
This is because you were
military-industrial
mixing me up
complex.
with like far left people.
I'm not mixing you up. I'm saying it's interesting that you would assert that when the left liberal, Occupy Wall Street, the moderate, largely view corporations as unduly influencing our political system.
I think most people would agree, though. Like, the issue is that this is my issue with leftists too. Just because there is corruption, it doesn't mean that that democracy isn't occurring necessarily. We can definitely say corruption is happening and there's something that needs to be done about it. But essentially, my question would be, what's the alternative? Do you want America not to be a democracy?
Well, I guess the issue is how you define the phrase democracy, right?
Do you want to take away people's right to vote?
Again, all people everywhere all the time. Do we want to put certain restrictions on voting? Do we want to open up voting to literally
I'm asking
anybody?
you. I genuinely, I don't know your position.
Right. So when you say, do you want to take away people's right to vote? What's going to happen is there's going to be a semantic manipulation on the left where they say people means everyone. And then what you'll get on the right is something like they'll reference Starship Troopers, service guarantees citizenship.
Yeah,
Right,
true,
where it's like
based.
when you allow people who are not citizens to vote, which some jurisdictions are doing, like in California, New York, they're trying, you are going to get a representation of non-citizens. And what are the non-citizens going to vote for? They're going to vote for their families back home. Why wouldn't they? I expect them to vote for their families, right?
Sure. And I would agree that there should be like some limits on who gets to vote, right? This is why I think citizenship is a really good standard by which who gets to vote, right? There's also even a good question like, should expats get to vote? If you haven't been in the country for 30 years, even though you're still a citizen, what's your like...
You pay taxes.
You pay taxes, yeah. Americans do. Expat Americans do. Canadian, should I be voting as a Canadian if I haven't been in my country for like 20 years because we don't have to pay taxes to Canada? I don't know the answer to this, right? So I'm willing to grant that there should be limitations to who votes. My question to you is still, essentially, are
That's a
you
good
opposed to
one.
America being a democracy?
Again, it depends on what you mean by democracy.
A transfer of the people of power to an elected official who then does their will.
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you want that to look like?
Not like it looks now, to be completely honest.
That's fine, but what do you want it to look like?
Yeah, like a person goes for the people, has a conversation over what the representative bloc wants to see happen in their various political structures, be it at the state level, local, city, or otherwise.
Sure.
Those individuals go and then enact the will of their voter base and to the best interest they possibly could.
Without the pit stop at the NGOs and the lobbyists and all
Agreed.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And
So,
not having
okay.
luxury steak dinners or being flown on private jets or going on boats and all that stuff.
Sure. Okay. So we should get money out of politics, like by and large.
Agreed.
Okay. So I would
do you-
totally agree with you. Like carry committees are the worst thing ever that happened. And the problem is that now we have a Moloch's game, right? This is the big issue with politics is that when, and this is my biggest criticism of the carry committee, is that essentially just to make sure everyone is aware of like what a carry committee is and stuff like that.
Not aware.
Okay, just want to make sure. And it's fine, you don't need to know esoteric words. It's not a gotcha. So a carry committee is essentially what we call like a super PAC. It's usually going to be a combination of sometimes it'll be a nonprofit or a charity, a C4 and a C3. And sometimes there'll be some other little fun things thrown in there, but that's essentially what it is. And this combination of things allows infinite donations, some of them, most of them, which can be hidden into who does it because they would be a C3, right? Which means that they're bipartisan. And then they usually are not bipartisan. And this is true on both sides, just so it's clear. Both sides are doing this. So carry committees get introduced. And the problem now is that if you want to run for federal office ever, good luck without a carry committee. You must participate in the evil thing that you despise, because if you don't, you will be limited in how much money you can raise. And the reality is that money does make elections work, which is gross, but how are you going to get your ads out? How are you going to pay for your tour? How are you going to pay for your staffers? How are you going to pay for your flyers, right? So money has to be infused to some degree in a democracy.
There's no way not to do it.
Exactly. And so then this issue goes, okay, well, if everyone, even if they want to play the game, even if we've got Jesus, okay, Jesus comes down and he's going to become a politician, which I would argue he would never do, but say he does.
I'd vote for him.
Jesus, me too. I would vote.
Yeah, me
I
too.
would vote the fuck for Jesus. Okay. The question is, Jesus also will have to have a carry committee. This is the Moloch's game, where essentially once the bad thing is in play, if you don't participate, you don't get to play at all. And so now we have this issue where we already have a bad thing, in this case, just the carry committee, and both sides have to participate. And the issue is now there's no incentive to get rid of it because nobody's going to canvass and like promote themselves on saying I'm anti-carry committee, because if they do, they will get no funding.
So, isn't this kind of part of the problem though? Like, if we're trying to figure out why men are leaving the left, we're not able to have a conversation like this with most people on the left, to be honest. You know, the people that, and currently there's no evidence that shows that the Democratic Party is interested in having people like that represent them. The money, the people that they're supporting, the Parkers, the Harry Sissons, the Deans, all that stuff. It's, I mean, and then this just recently, they put up that lady Olivia Giuliani or whatever that was going around on X. There's no evidence that they're even willing to concede on any of their positions.
Let me tell you. So we did a live event for this show, and we're planning a series of live show. That was our pilot. We're trying to figure out how it works. I can tweet who wants to come and debate on the culture war, and on the right, you'll get 500,000 responses. I'll get a text from Charlie Kirk saying, "I'd love to find some dates that work." On the left, they say, "Contact my agent, and we'll give you our rates." Then, if a few people, I'll give credit to the Krasensteins. As much as, you know, there's contention between our opinions,
They're fun to make fun of.
Absolutely. But I respect that they've come on the show. They've said, "Let us know when you have dates. We'd love to be a part of the conversation." And I very few people want to do these things. And so that makes it impossible. I think the reason why is the fear that if you defy the orthodoxy, you'll be excommunicated.
Yep, they're right. Dean is fully audience captured. I mean, his friend Harry Sisson
Canceled on us.
It's crazy.
I'm sure he did, right?
Yeah, he got scared.
They all do though. That's what I was gonna bring up too in regard to all of them. It's like I think a big problem too is that this new TikTok culture, like you're saying, has them audience captured. And what is the audience on TikTok? TikTok is largely designed for women.
It's got to be left leaning.
It's a lot of female users, more than like any other app, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, anytime I defend feminism, I do well. Anytime I defend men, not so good.
So I mean, so these platforms are shaping
TikTok
these
banners.
young influencers, and then they're terrified to go anywhere without their mute button.
Sure, but there's like
Right.
TikTok is a hell of a problem to get into, right? Because you got to talk about like China and all these other like blah 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 blah.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. So subscribe and come hang out.
Yes, go subscribe to Tim. He's pretty good. Don't subscribe to me. I don't care. I'm just watching these videos. It's so crazy. What happened to the world? All right, thank you.